Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, look, we can do like our welcome. Welcome to the show. Little card right there. Hey, look at that. See, it's all right there. All right. What's up, everybody? Doing good? Yeah. Good. Awesome. Glad to hear it. So, as you spent about like 2 minutes or so, kind of coughing up the spores that had been released into the air and trying to clear up the miasmic cloud and just walking throughout the room and trying to take it in. You guys were able to see many different details, all of which are going to be released after you roll me a perception check.
All of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long break. I had to go and do 300 crunches to. I only did 400 yesterday, so I have to do 600 today to stay on track.
It's
Jesus.
really not even. It's not even funny at this point.
Oh my god! Wow.
This is just beyond. Like this is meme level now.
This is ridiculous. This is crazy.
The Valen Ray show.
Yeah, apparently, jeez. All right, so yeah. What you should do is wait until the first person rolls, and if it's a bad roll, immediately roll, Jake. You know what I mean? If they roll well, wait till the second person rolls to see if they roll poorly, and then immediately, try to work it that way. So, you guys are walking about the room trying to take in the sights, and you actually are able to see a considerable amount. So, just more or less the united effort of all of you, let's describe what this room looks like. As I said beforehand, it spills into what would be a wooden basin. The wood actually holds up pretty damn well. Considering all the other ruins that you've gotten, everything has seemed to be like rotted away, almost completely rotted away, fall apart, collapse into itself, weather damage, so on and so forth. The wooden basin that's in here has held up perfectly. Sure, you can see the aging of the wood. You can see in areas where the wood is so dry that it's starting to like really splinter and split and fade in color. Not the way that wood fades in color when it's like kind of sun washed, but the way that fades in color as it just gets so old from hundreds of years of passing. But has not completely rotted through, and certainly has no pests or anything like that working on it. The room that you guys had spilt into was in fact a stone room, and very, very well formed stone room that you came into. The immediate, looking at the tunnel that you guys had poured through, one of the first things that catches your eyes is on the immediate inside. So it's a circular tunnel that you had spilled out of, or hole in the wall that you had spilled out of. Immediately on the inside, so on like the actual walls, you can actually see runes very similar to the ones that you had overhead. Not the exact same, but similar enough to the ones that you had seen outside there when you had seen the table. So you imagine and they are glowing here as well. So there's some sort of magical energy that takes place. On the actual inside of the tunnel itself, off to both the left and the right of where the actual hole is on the walls, there's, similar to the first temple that you went to, remember that whole turning wheel that you had to lock the door? There's set into the wall turning wheels, much like you would see inside of a submarine. You're not exactly sure what they do, at least at first, until Valorant realizes that it's hard to notice at first, but I mean, you are someone that's very familiar with the architecture of these peoples, and you have the whispers, the guidance, and whatnot. You were able to see that there's actual doorways that you imagine when you turn the wheels, the one to the right, and the one to the left, because one on either side, doors that kind of like open up on the inside of the tunnel, just inside of where the actual rooms are set, perhaps to redirect the sludge when it comes back down this way, right? So it doesn't come, up against whatever these runes do, or this room, or whatever the case may be. Maybe to safeguard, who knows? But you do actually see those there. The rest of the room itself, there aren't any runes on the walls or anything like that. There doesn't seem to be any magic in here. But the place is, in fact, adorned with other bits of furniture. You can actually see there's areas where people are meant to hang up their cloaks, to place their boots. In fact, you can see areas where boots from travel would have been set, but then there are separate type of, these are of course somewhat rotted because they don't, cotton and whatnot doesn't hold as well as as wood does to the test of time. So rotted, but like almost like indoor shoes. And I don't mean like full on moccasins, but very, very similar style shoe where it's actually designed to be comfortable, designed to be warm, has a bit of a fur lining on the inside, is a bit of a cottony kind of material on the outside. As soon as you pick up the first shoe, it just kind of like falls apart in your hands because of the age. Where you would literally put your boots into one cubby, grab the almost moccasins from the cubby above it, and walk over these interior shoes, remove your dirty cloak. But you would also see that each one of these cubbies has a place for you to place your weapons. Almost as though it would be the custom here, where you wouldn't actually take your weapons beyond this room. You would leave those here. There are even other cubbies where you would actually be able to remove your armor and place it onto dummies that exist here. I imagine none of your characters actually use that and remove your stuff and hang it up. But Valrin, using Detect Magic and trying to take in the area, you can detect the presence of magic inside of here. First of all, obviously, the runes in the immediate inside of the tunnel that I had mentioned. Obviously, those are glowing with magic, and it's the abjuration magic that we had talked about beforehand, right? But also the different cubbies themselves, it's almost like it's many tiny little radiations of magic that almost make one just massive light aura of what is it, transmutation magics going on inside of here. Now, transmutation, of course, is the most common school that you'll ever find. Pretty much every enchanted item has a hint of transmutation that takes place. So you feel that on all of the cubbies and the entire room, along the walls, so on. On the opposite side of the opposite wall of where it was you had spilled in to this little basin area, on the opposite side, you can actually see a door that leads out. The door is wooden. The door has a latch handle, not a locked handle or anything like that, but a latch handle that you would use to leave. Again, there's a bit of rot on the door because of how many years had passed, but not so much that it's like collapsed into itself or hard to move. As a matter of fact, even the metal, the iron bars, because they didn't really use steel, remember, they used a lot of iron. The iron bands that would have been the hinges and whatnot, those have only the slightest hint of rusting starting to happen. You know what I mean? Certainly a lot less than you would expect. No persons or anything like that down here.
I would relay all that information.
You all come to that conclusion together.
Yeah.
I imagine you relay the magical part.
Yeah. Well, this is certainly different. I believe that those are pointing at the cranks maybe a method of disarming the ooze trap thing. It might be worth doing that just so should it be on a timer, it'll come back in and down through that hole.
I see. There are runes on the wall, correct?
Correct. Not the walls of the actual chamber, but the right inside the tunnel that you'd spilled out. So clearly there's some sort of runes in the actual tunnel, just at the edge. And not even like beforehand where it's like the outside, it's actually the inner lining.
Could we go try and read them?
You don't have the master of the other language here with you to make that super... Actually, you speak both languages, don't you, that are pertinent? Oh, my apologies. Yes, and you can cast Read Magic. So you can roll the linguistics check. Now, does anybody else in the party speak both languages or either language? This is Gnomish and Mull.
I speak both.
Okay. Again, Mull, remember, it's a dead language. Most hobgoblins don't even speak this language.
Yeah, it was one of the two I chose because...
Yep. No, that's fine. I'm not knocking that you know it. Oh, my stomach stopped hurting. Okay.
Linguistics.
Yep.
Because he's assisting you, you do get the +2. Would you like to enhance that roll, sir? And I imagine Jake, I'm just kind of like, I imagine Jake also guidanced you as you're doing this, you know.
So what?
Yeah,
definitely. I'm on
May Vrogon impart on you the wisdom of...
I'm 15 now, am I?
Correct. Would you like to enhance that in case that Scott did a random 17 or something?
Yeah, I feel like it's worth the luck. What do you guys think?
I think we've got enough that this is something that's important because we don't want that slime coming back and being like,
yeah.
"Hi, motherfuckers."
Well, Naga had given you another one anyways, so everyone that you've spilled has been replenished so far this session, one at a time. So you actually, hey, look at that! You got the odd 17. I actually had set the DC at 16, so you beat it by 1. Yay! So you looking about the runes, trying to read the magics and whatnot, you can see that they are similar to the runes that were overhead, in the sense that they're designed to be that magic circle that would stop them from being able to penetrate through into this chamber. However, unlike beforehand, where there was a way to kind of like flip the runes and allow it to kind of like expel in, versus this is meant to be just a solid wall. The way that it's carved into the stone, how deeply it's carved, and the fact that the actual runes themselves, with a closer inspection and whatnot, looking past the glowing, you can actually see that not only is it just like impressed into the stone, but much like the rest of the mole architecture, it's actually iron inlaid into the impression into the stone. So these things would be very difficult for you to destroy or alter or anything. It's to stop the ooze from ever coming into this room. So you imagine that could be catastrophic. You know what I mean? If that were to come pouring into here. So you don't think that there's any chance.
Cool.
However, you do, of course, still have those turn wheels if you wanted to open up whatever trapdoors those happen to open on the inside of the tunnel. Whatever that does.
Well, yeah, okay, so that would open the route out.
Potentially. You don't entirely know. You know, it would open a door in this wall and the other one a door in this wall inside the actual tunnel, but you don't know what for.
Inside the tunnel, so past the runes?
Yep, just past the runes. So the goop coming down, instead of stopping at the wall of, effectively the wall of magic made by the runes, the goop, instead of just like stopping there, and you imagine that where the goop actually was that filled up that room overhead was literally just stuck in this tunnel the entire time, stuck between two barriers. And then when you broke one barrier, it started gooping out upwards, like against gravity, because it was slothing up, right? But when you flip the rune, it just like, it kind of exploded, almost like a vacuum sucked it outwards, right? And then, and now it's stuck out there. If you were to flip that again or whatever, it would come pouring back down and you can lock it in. But if you were to open this, it would allow the goop that gets stuck in the tunnel normally to kind of filter out to wherever that is that these tunnels go to. Or maybe it's meant to be, like Neil was saying, you open it up and now that it's expelled outwards, so you actually have access to these little doorways, you can go to wherever they're meant to lead to. You'll kind of have to find that out however you want. And again, there is a door leaving this chamber.
Can I sift the door?
Yes, you can, sir. Please.
I'm going to guidance myself before I do it.
That didn't make sense to me for a second. I was like, what do you mean by sift the door? Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, you got a 2, and we're proud of you for that result.
It was a 3, actually.
Actually, I think it's only a -5, right? Not a -10, or is it a -10?
With guidance, it's a -4.
Yeah, so a total of -4. So instead of a 2, it's a 7. So, so you go over to the door and you sit. Unfortunately, maybe it's just the way it's formed. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe Vrogar is having a hard time communicating with you down here. You can't see past what your eyes can perceive.
Should we perhaps open these trapdoors or doors on the inside of the tunnel and have a look in while the beast is still up there?
I think it would be a wiser decision to explore the further into the tunnels and then deal with whatever this is after. We do not want to flood the lower chambers with this or something similar.
That's just true. I'm just worried about Elliot. We may need him for the linguistics capabilities he has.
That is true. He does want.
We could at least open these and have a look in. I don't believe these would have any way of moving the circle up top. I'm rather confused about how that's supposed to reset. But so far, the mole have proven inventive.
Indeed. Well then, which one of these do you think we turn if we want to get Elliot down here?
Okay. Can I make an educated guess about which one does which? Oh no, it's like there's two doors, right?
Yeah, two like wheels that you could turn that would open up like a passageway in the.
Well, that barrier is quite solid. Yes, the magic barrier.
It would appear so. It is set
I-
in iron.
Good. I would suggest we first maybe open one of these and wait, because we don't know if this is how they reset the trap. If we open it up and then go peeking inside and the slime comes down, it would be bad. So
I would presume one of the wheels opens the doors and the other reverses the magic at the top. Otherwise, you would never be able to get the slime back down into the chamber without there being great risks to anyone operating the mechanism.
that is a good point.
I mean, that's a guess.
It's as good as anything I have. So, I'm gonna look at the different. Can I try and move one of them a little bit and see which side I hear the sound on, or if I hear the sound or I don't hear the sound of grinding or anything?
I mean, Rarium would suggest that if presumably they do not wish to drain the fluid away as often as they want to change the magic. So perhaps one of them is more worn?
That is a good point. Can I have a look at? Can I perceive to see if one of them is more used than the other one?
Perception check or knowledge, architecture, engineering, whatever's better for you.
Rarium would assist, obviously.
I'll do perception. The dice are doing funky things today where they're like, low roll, nah, never mind.
All right, so that's actually the perception is actually a pretty good one.
It's 22 because he was assisting.
So you, yeah, I got that. So you go over there and you start looking them over, and you see that the one on the left seems to, have wear and tear. Clearly, it's been used, so on and so forth. You can see like where hand grips on there, like the sort of stone and where it's set and whatever. But it's definitely the one on the right that is used significantly more often, and I mean like whereas the one on the left has use on it. When you compare it to the one on the right, you realize no, that one's probably just more wear and tear of the ages past as opposed to actual like manipulation or use. You know what I mean? The other one has like scuff marks on it for like gauntlets being used when turning it, and so on and so forth. And there's like a whole bunch more like
Tiny.
scraping at the back and blah 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 blah. Definitely the one on the right's used more often. So you assume that's the one for reversing the magics.
Left one first, perhaps.
I think so. I would use the spurs.
He didn't check for the blades on it, and he just goes.
That's why I said I would use the spurs to push.
Part of the perception check, you would see those don't exist. The booby trap aspect does not exist.
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I like the idea that razor blade just.
So you go over there and you turn the left one first, allowing the chamber over there to open. Now, when this one opens up, it's nothing really happens. As you turn the thing, you can see that the stone wall, which looked, to even a keen eye, but not like an expert inspection. Even a keen eye may have overlooked it. You know what I mean? But the stone itself, the wall itself, like a little circular portal with a bit of a bend to it, because we are talking about a tunnel here, a cylindrical tunnel. It kind of depresses in several inches, about 4 or 6 inches, and then moves to the side. So as you're turning this thing, you can hear gears turning, and you can see the as it opens up. But nothing happens like of significance, like magic or anything like that that's inside there. Do you immediately go over and start turning the other one? Do you guys want to go and explore that area? What do you...
Let's not turn the other one. Let's go and have a little peek.
Let's first of all. It's like he finishes like turning it and he sits there and stares.
So like, like looks in.
Okay, I think we can go.
Oh. Oh.
Waiting for like horrible things to come happen.
Just to be sure, you keep a hold of that, and me and Juan will go check it out.
Okay. He just sits there like that. I will
Have
him
the
move, like,
weakest
one of the-
person hold the door open. Yes. Yes, I like this.
And look,
plan.
we've already
I
delegated the
like
strength.
this
test.
plan.
It's okay. What I'll do is, if worst comes to worst and it starts trying to move itself closed, I'll just freeze it.
That works every time. And all of a sudden, because the
Yep.
strength of the actual metal turning, the gears turning against you, you froze it. You just end up snapping off the steering wheel. So you have a Wreck-It Ralph 2 situation going on. You're like, oh no.
I haven't seen that yet. I need to see that.
It's awesome. I like the Wreck-It Ralph movies.
I don't think
It's the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's not much of a spoiler.
Yeah.
It's the whole premise of the movie.
You've ruined the movie for me now.
Yeah, well, you know.
Oh,
It's okay. You get kids, you'll still see it 100 times.
So yeah, I'll just hold it like that, ready to do whatever. I'll also move one of the dancing lights to the entrance, so they have at least a bit of light. I can't move it further because I can't see further. So
Josh, you're way
That's
behind
right.
on the jokes. Sorry, man. Try to keep
that's
track.
right. That's right, because Rayron would spark a light,
perfect.
a real
Pulls the
light,
dancing light back to himself.
a big boy light.
Oh, I should make a little spell nodule for you to have your light spell work as well, so you guys can have access.
You see Valorant make a fuss of how bright the light is. Like, it's too bright.
So, anyways, you make your own little light, and you guys start walking into that tunnel. So, one of the first things to note about that tunnel is it doesn't slope or anything like that. It's formed exactly the same as the one you had come down. You know, very smooth all around, well carved, so on and so forth. It has like a little mouth opening, as you can clearly see, because you know the thing opened up. But once you kind of like step through the mouth opening into the now perpendicular tunnel, it opens up a bit wider than what the mouth is. So there's a bit of a lip there. But overall, it's still a cylindrical tunnel. It's still well formed. But there's nothing in it. It just walks, at least for the first while, perpendicular and of the same level. You guys go into it. I imagine you first peer into it and see what I just described. And then you're going to start walking into the tunnel and trying to see where it is that this leads to. How long are you going to walk for? How curious are your characters?
I mean, we've got light, which is what I can see about 40 feet.
Mm-hmm. He can see 60 if he... So
Yeah.
if he walks, say, 30 feet ahead of you, it gets 90 feet out from where you're standing, he can see, you know?
I mean, we could do that, potentially.
He can walk ahead of you by like 30 feet, so the little wimpy guy can hang back with his 2 health points.
Nah,
over
I
you.
think we'd walk side by side. We've just been in
of course.
combat again.
Of course.
Raren would want to talk to one. I'm impressed he managed to lift that stone, you know. I really didn't think it was going to happen.
Oh, yes. It was quite a surprise. Surprised he didn't break a bone.
More to him than meets the eye, I suspect. And I don't just mean he's crazy and is seeing hallucinations.
One just laughs.
So you guys continue walking down the tunnel. As we were just saying, you guys continue walking down the tunnel for a considerable amount of time. And it goes on. Minute passes, 2, 5 minutes pass. And it's past the point where you're pretty sure if you hollered at the top of your like as loud as you possibly could, he probably won't even be able to hear you. If he's very keenly listening, he might be able to hear you. But after a bit of time, it starts to get a slope. You know, first like a 5-degree slope, and then a solid like 10-degree slope upwards.
Down? Oh,
Upwards,
upwards.
yeah.
This is the way out then. Okay.
And you guys continue. Do you want to continue walking along the path?
Yeah, we'll continue for a little while longer. But Raren would say as soon as it stops sloping that, as I thought, this will be the way out.
Eventually, it goes on, and it actually gets Valorant a bit concerned down there. The only thing between him and a tunnel of sludge is a few runes that he hopes hold up and nothing goes wrong. And the only thing between him and who knows what kind of creatures might be inside this keep with him, and he has no way out unless he maybe follows after you guys and hopes things work out, is a little door that he's like, oh, it's wood. Let's get some iron on it, right? Hopefully nothing notices I'm here. As an hour passes before you guys finally come to the end of where this is. Now, the ends that you actually come to is actually a graded ends. The whole tunnel comes upwards to finally, the slope goes gradual from a 10 degree incline to maxes out at a solid 15 degree slope or incline. So it's not extreme. It's not even as extreme as, say, like a staircase would be, right? So it's definitely something you can continue walking up. It hurts your thighs, around your kneecaps, just above them, or whatever, for a while. But it's not the end of the world. And you eventually come to where it's just iron bar grates going across, making it so that even a halfling's arm would be hard pressed to get even the elbow through. Shining up your light and trying to look through to the other side, what you see on the other side is that there's definitely a natural cave that it seems to feed into. You don't know where that cave is. It doesn't look too particularly deep. Why don't you roll me perception checks, both you boys?
I wonder if this is actually the way out for the slime then. The freedom.
So it's actually moments. It's actually during one of the moments where your character's like, maybe we missed something, Rayrin. And you actually walk several steps back down the tunnel to see if maybe there were more runes in here or something like that you overlooked, because this can't be the exit. You're thinking maybe it's the exit for the slime. Is there something to stop the slime? Maybe that works. How is it people are supposed to come out here? Maybe there's a doorway that we missed. Maybe there's something that we hadn't noticed over here. And so as you go back the other direction to look, finally kind of like the light fades away in the immediate area that you're in. And you can kind of blink a few times and your natural vision comes into place, one. And you can actually see at the very edge, even beyond the edge of your black and white vision, there's a little glimmer of light that's over there. And you kind of like get into the angle, you can just barely see it kind of like peeking through. That this tunnel, this cave that it opens up into, is not an incredibly deep cave, because you can actually see light peeking in just barely around the corner. And at one point in time when he literally stops, and Rayrin, I mean, he chatters a lot and, he shuffles when he walks, but, like a soldier. But he's kind of still and, steady breath and studying the wall. You're listening. And you can just barely hear. Sounds like rushing of water. Pretty sure you can hear the rushing of water echoing through the cave ever so slightly. Ever so slightly you can hear that.
Does it sound like it's getting louder at all?
No. It's just steady rushing of water. Almost like you've been hearing it the entire time since you got up here when he wasn't talking. You've been hearing it the entire time since you've been up here, but you just didn't notice it at first. And now you realize it's kind of that white noise in the background, and you're able to perceive what it is. You can focus on it.
So one just turns to Rare and he's like, I can just make out some light just around that bend there. But can you hear that? It sounds like we might be near a stream or a river. You can hear running water.
No, I'm afraid I can't. But I'll take
He just says, be quiet, listen.
He tries being as quiet as he possibly can. However, the DC to hear that's a 25. So even with you giving him a +2 and him spending 2 minutes to get a natural 20, unless Vrogar was guidance him, he literally lacks the capacity to hear the water because of how hard it is to do. So I imagine literally like 2-3 minutes pass of him listening and just like shaking his head and you being frustrated and like, in the name of Vrogar, and you're like, and then just barely he can hear it.
Yes, there's something. I guess that sounds like it could be water, I suppose. I'm not sure how useful that is, though.
I don't know the layout of this land. I don't know where we could be.
Well, remember, Hardgwen is along a river. It's actually where one river spills into another. As a reminder of the map. Have I never made you guys a handout map? All right, I'm gonna put that on
No, you haven't.
another thing I need to do. Let me make a list for myself.
This was the
So-
slime disposal, just flooded into the river.
Yeah, potentially, because if it dilutes it, that's so potentially this no human or humanoid creature could make its way through these bars. However, a slime, it would have no problem doing so. And if it were to escape into a cave where the only way out is dilution in water, it would be swept downstream, perhaps to Paradel, perhaps out to sea. Or perhaps diluted so much that it's no longer even a slime. I'm unsure of these things. I've never really encountered them before.
Me either. I don't like them though.
So, this could be a way to get rid of the slime for a way out. It
I'll
seemed
leave
to
the
have
thinking to you.
it seemed to have some form of sentience. It decided it wanted you after all. I suppose we best walk back to Varen. He's probably shitting himself about now.
Yeah, we should probably get back.
I mean, reasonably, it has been a fair while. So maybe this is the way to get the way out. It seems a rather long tunnel, and I'm surprised that it goes up.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'd wander back.
Okay. So after nearly an hour's travel, about an hour's travel coming all the way here, do you guys increase your pace heading back, or do you not stress yourselves, just make your way back?
I don't really see any reason why. Like, we'd perhaps walk at a faster pace because we're aware that Varen's been on his own for a long
I'm
time.
saying you could hustle, you could jog it, and there's no, like, you're not gonna have to make any constitution saves or anything, but you could hustle if you wanted to.
I mean, we bought fast. I don't know about jogging. That's a long, that's quite a long way to jog for an hour.
Listen,
maybe.
you're walking down an incline for a long period of time. That's gonna hurt your thighs just as much as.
True. Yeah.
I don't know the jog. I'd rather just run with the momentum. Just like, it's gonna hurt my knees and my ankles later on, but I'll just fucking take it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have a little jog.
Okay. So the two of your characters are friendly enough. I imagine ever so slightly competitive enough that without even a word to one another, there's like one of those, like, there's enough space that you can run side by side, but there's an ever so slight edging of what happens between the two of you. It's like the two of you are always kind of edging on each other, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, at one point, if Rayron was getting ahead a little bit, one would kind of just like push into the side and keep running. He would do it in like a playful way, but no.
He's bigger than Rayron.
It's a thing where he just tried to give him a nudge, and Ray would just.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was going to return. So you guys make your way back down there. So you're gone for about an hour and a half's time. Just shy of that. The whole time that they're down there. Now, while they're down there, you had been waiting this whole while, and you got bored, Ray. Sorry, Val. You got bored the whole time you were down there. So you're just kind of like looking about, and you had rolled that disgustingly high perception check beforehand, and I knew that you were going to be alone for a while because I figured they were going to do this to you. With your detect magic, when you had like a bit of time, just like waste, just like, well, let me kind of like look at the auras that exist down here.
I mean, honestly, with the way he can just cast detect magic whenever he wants, it's a very good chance when he's bored, he would just constantly do detect magic and look at things.
Yep.
Just to see, like, even just the faintest, like, just out of curiosity.
Yep. So with the detect magic on, just kind of like looking at the different auras there. Like I said, there's like a ton of little like transmutations that you imagine are make this like one aura. But then you start to see other auras are kind of like peeking and hitting behind. Actually, there's a bunch of little ones here and there. A couple in that cubby over there, one in that cubby over there. And you realize, oh, there's a veritable assortment of different things. Maybe the cubbies have different properties. Or maybe there's items within the cubbies themselves.
Loot!
Do you wish to go look at them while they're in the tunnel?
Oh.
He's like holding onto the wheel and like.
Mage hand?
I don't have mage hand, unfortunately.
Unseen servant?
No, can't prestidigitation make very small, weak objects? Just like lock something in place.
No, not exactly. It more or less makes figments.
Oh, figment. Okay, yeah. Then, I would be trying to look to see what's in them from here, like putting the dancing lights over. He would do that thing where he like backs away slightly as he's let go. Just doesn't move at all. He would honestly, he's too curious for his own good. He would probably try and go have a look.
After 5 minutes of the thing being unattended, which happens, 5 minutes totally pass, and you're kind of engrossed in your own good thing, you eventually, I imagine you don't even hear the first few clicks because, you're distracted, but the scraping on the ground, you're like, oh! You kind of like jump up and like rush over back to the spinning wheel. After 5 minutes of it not being like kind of like locked into the fully open locked position, you can actually hear as things like click, 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 and start spinning backwards to shut the thing. So perhaps it was a good idea that you had stayed on this side because there was a 5-minute reset where it shuts back into place. And you can tell that 5-minute reset, it takes like a solid 20 seconds or so for it to reseal on its own. It takes like, say, 16 seconds for it to close, and then kind of like engages for like the last couple seconds after that. But you were able to kind of like grab it, and then I imagine kind of like going back and forth, that you're good. And even if you can catch it while it's, no, I apologize, while it's shutting, you can't stop it while it's shutting. You actually freak out for a second. You're like, oh, no. It's just trying to grab the thing and pull up. I'm even gonna have you make a strength check. Your character literally is not strong enough with a natty 20 to succeed. The thing is just too strong against your might to it just seals anyways. But once it's fully engaged and locked for like a 2 or 3 seconds, it then kind of like a clasp or whatever goes the other way, where you can reopen it again if you want to, right? So freak out moments, but you're good. Anyways, you do end up finding littered about the room several potions and even a few scrolls where you can get them. Now let's bore the other two PCs for a minute while we look and see what these various items are.
It begins.
Of course it does. So like I said, several potions, even a few scrolls. When I say several, in case I don't know how you have this set up for yourself, but I'm going to tell you that what you're going to end up rolling for amongst all the cubbies, everything that you're searching through, is going to end up being 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potions and 4 scrolls.
Okay.
So we're going to start with your checks to just identify. If I remember correctly, the DC is what, 20? Is it? What's the DC again? No, it's 20 plus caster level. Click your ability for me.
Yes. I know that's for magic items specifically. Let me have a look.
Well, scrolls and potions are magic items.
Whoop.
DC 20 plus caster level. Cool. So you're gonna, what is that? What did we just say? 11 items. So you could just pop me 11 spellcrafts. As exciting as that is, just splat it for me. Oh Jesus. Huh.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Cool.
Oh my god.
So, I know it's super exciting. So
That didn't do all of them, did it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, I did do all of them.
Yep.
7, 8,
It just came in
I
like
got 20 on one of them. I got 2 1s and a 20 in that. How many 1s and 20s are we going to roll this session?
All right, so you ready for this? Just write down what you have. You got a potion of remove fear, an unidentified potion. Because potions are easier to detect than scrolls, you can actually get that with less than a 20. You got a potion of jump. You got an unidentified scroll. You got a unidentified
a potion of jump, unidentified scroll.
Yep. Then an unidentified potion. Then a scroll of ray of frost.
Huh.
Yeah, I know. I thought you'd like that. Let me make sure I get this right. So hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 4, 6. Cool. Now I'm on the right spot. Then you got a oil of levitate. So one of the potions is actually an oil of levitate. Difference between oil and a potion is oil is for objects, potions are for consumption, right? Then you actually got a potion of protection from arrows with your spellcraft of 30. So we catch up where we are. An unidentified scroll. I'll wait till you're ready.
Yep.
A potion of cat's grace. And an unidentified scroll. Those unidentified scrolls are pretty easy for Neil to figure out too, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay? Awesome. So that's what you're able to discover inside this first chamber when you first walked in. No rot, no wear, no tear, just beautifully sitting there waiting for you, having belonged to somebody at some point in time, left inside their cubby, inside of a cloak pocket or inside of a pouch or whatever the case may be. Also inside this chamber, looking about, you actually happen to come across the total number of 511 gold pieces.
Ooh-wee.
Not only are they 511 gold pieces, they're of a mint that doesn't exist any longer. My apologies. I said gold. 511 electrum pieces. I know it sounds weird to you. They're of a mint that just doesn't exist anymore because it's from the empire that was here many, 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 many years ago.
Okay, 511. I'm just going to put that in the platinum pieces section because you said that we know platinum is rarer, wasn't it?
Platinum is the most rare. So it goes copper, silver, electrum, gold, platinum.
You can put it in the notes below as well.
Oh, I can too, you're right. Okay, well, damn. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to go with putting those into the actual items now.
So as a reminder, electrum has less value than gold on just the face value, just the value of the actual material. But because this is for an ancient kingdom that doesn't exist anymore, you could potentially sell that for considerably more. If you find the right people. This is not a human kingdom like we were talking about before, and this is a mole one. So again, you can find it. You can trade it just for less value than gold, or potentially for more value than gold, depending on who you work with. 511 electrum pieces. And you can write in it like mole coin or whatever. All right, we good? They come back down an hour and a half later on. At one point in time when you guys are coming down, all of a sudden you're kind of doing your jog, you're playful. You hear... And the two of you are like, oh, and you start like booking it, running towards the door as quickly as you can. And then you can just see it ahead of you. There's no matter how much you try to sprint, no matter what you do, it just clink and locks and engages. And you're like,
begin shouting.
Yeah, you guys.
Baron!
Val, the stone is so thick, and it really is very, very thick stone. You don't hear them shouting through stone. Are you kidding me? They're inside of a sealed tunnel, a watertight sealed tunnel. You don't hear anything. After the thing finishes locking, you're like, yeah. You put down the last thing that you're trying to identify, and you're getting frustrated because it's probably their fault you couldn't identify that last scroll because they were friggin', not their fault, the door's fault. Because you're like, fine, I'll go open the door, trying to figure this stupid thing out. You stuff the scroll into your compartment, you go over and you start just like turning the wheel again, and you guys all of a sudden hear as you're like banging and shouting and it wasn't heard, and then all of a sudden the thing starts to open up in front of you. And you come out of the tunnel to see Valor in there.
Thanks for opening the door.
Oh,
Yep.
it shuts itself every 5 minutes, and you can't stop it from shutting.
Right, I see.
But it opens quite easily after that, so it was a good thing that I stayed here.
Mind you, he let it be closed like a solid minute before he reopened it.
Sorry about that. I found these, and it's gonna literally go over and hand you 1, 2, 3, 4 scrolls. And he's gonna hand you 4 scrolls. One of those. Oh, this one's a scroll of Ray of Frost.
Thank you.
These were in those, pointing to the cubby holes.
I see. It seems rather peculiar, actually.
I assume this was a sort of drop-off point. Coat rack.
It seems rather like the entrance to a place of worship to me.
Yes, which is worrying a little bit, depending if they have a lot more protections on the inside.
However, I must say I am a little bit perturbed. Why would they leave so many things behind? Even if they were of minor value, it seems to suggest to me that they disappeared rather than left. Or at least left in a great hurry.
It wasn't just that. To further your point, he's going to open up and show the bag of the Electrum. It's like, I believe it's 511, and it should be worth more because it's of a mint that's not obviously produced anymore.
Wait, was it Electrum or was it gold?
Electro, I said gold at first by accident.
Okay.
So it's like
Interesting.
250 gold, is it? Or like a roundabout?
Yeah, about that value if you just trade it at face
If you
value.
just trade it,
255.1 or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's if we trade it. We obviously want to find someone who wants that stuff.
Interesting.
Indeed, it's quite peculiar. Oh right, yes. Nothing has happened at the door so far. Shall we try the other? He probably thinks we're dead. Elliot, sorry.
Maybe. He'd be wrong.
Yes. Should we try the other thing and try and flush? What did you find?
I'm not entirely certain. It's an awfully long tunnel. We walked for an hour to get to the end. It ends in an incline and a grate. Very small and fine grating. It looks sturdy, but there's no way I'd be able to get even an arm through it. A slime, on the other hand, would. Presuming that the slime is sentient enough to wish to leave. If it could leave via that, I'm not entirely certain. It seems redundant for them to have a way out for it. They would lose their mechanism to defend the place. Anyway.
Well, if that one was used far less than the other one, as you say, refilling the containment with the slime would be quite difficult. They'd want to do it less often, but I imagine they may need to do it.
Yes, perhaps. The tunnel ends in the grating, which opens up into a large cavern. One heard the sound of running water, which leads us to believe that it may be somewhere near the river. Which then led to the theory that perhaps the slime disposal forces it to enter the river, which dilutes it to the point that it can no longer be considered a slime, or simply sweeps it downstream towards Paradel.
I mean, both situations would help us. I worry that if it sweeps it down to Paradel, although they would be quite equipped to deal with it. Well, what do you think? Shall we test out the mechanism?
I feel that Elliot would be alright if we simply checked the rest of the cavern. It would put him in less danger, at least. Difficult to say. I simply... The
if
reason
we had
I'm...
a way of telling him to wait would be much better, but I'm not sure if we do.
No, not that I'm aware of. The reason I'm against this is simply because, should the worst come to the worst, we can bet that those band of ruffians on the surface will not be able to make it past this slime.
Oh, that is very true.
Which is the only reason I have not simply said we should do it.
That's a good point.
However,
What do
on
you
the
think?
other hand... Yeah, go ahead. Shifty eyes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your input. Goes back to Rayron.
I was
Were you actually talking to him?
Yeah.
Yes, I said, what do you
I
think,
talked
Rayron?
over him.
That was so good, though. Okay, moving on. No, I asked, what do you think?
It's a very one thing, though. Like, he just stares at you blankly, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He just turns to you and he says, "This is not my area of expertise. I'll follow your lead."
fair. Perhaps it is a good idea to have a look around first. If we need him, we can then come back and figure
On the
that
other
out.
hand, we did
Go on.
promise that we would show him the ruins.
That's true. Well,
I say we activate the mechanism. We can bring the slime down and get it out of the way, providing that we will leave this chamber open, this door, while we reverse the magic. Hopefully it will be channeled straight out of the door and we won't have to worry about it. The
That
only
is-
problem is getting up.
yes. Well, if the room up the top is reversed as well, it will open up the staircase, and he will see that there is now a hole in the middle of the floor. He can probably surmise what happened. At least I hope he can. He seems smart.
I'm not sure you would consider it smart to leap into a hole that you don't know where it leads, and the last thing you saw down there was a form of acidic slime.
That's true. Let me have a look. See, I don't think I have anything that I can. No, I don't. Prestidigitation does not make loud sounds.
No, I think you'd rather change my mind. Perhaps it's best to wait, leave Elliot in a place of safety for now.
We can just hope he doesn't leave. But yes, I think having a look around first might be a good idea. Worst case scenario, we can figure out what to do from there. Turning to one, do you still have those pigeons? We could use those to climb out.
I do.
That could work.
That could work. Woe betide anyone that attempts to slide down once the pittons have been put in there.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll wait to do that then. We will have a look around first. Oh, speaking of, he's actually going to rustle around in his bag and hand a potion of cure light wounds to one. If you wish to top up a bit, you seem to be fairly rough from before.
Thank you. And he will down it. Cure light is what?
Oh, 1d8 plus
1d8?
Yeah, plus 1.
1. Yeah.
I don't know if it's my internet. I think is holding fine because I think it's just because you two are in the AU. You two specifically get a little jumpy on me.
Oh, really?
It's probably just because your server's so far from mine.
You've probably just got like a spider in your interwebs. Huge huntsman.
My roommate has been complaining.
Hey! You always roll so well when it comes to health 1. If only Neil could do that. How much health are you back up to now? 17? Wow, that's like way above Neil's max HP. And you're still injured. Don't forget your temp health is gone now. But that's okay. You still have 17 left.
Yep.
Good. He's gonna go first. This was Valorant's like, you take this.
So,
Well played.
do you allow the door to the left to re-engage and lock, and or do you turn the wheel to the right?
Not yet.
Okay, so you eventually this door will lock on its own because it does after 5 minutes, and the other one you're going to leave be and just allow the tunnel to stay empty because you believe the other one will pull the tunnel back in.
Yeah,
Perhaps
yeah.
Perhaps we should reverse the magic, but not release the slime, because it will still protect it. However, Elliot will know that we've undone the mechanism, and it may give him the message.
That means I'm sitting there like, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead. I can't even leave now, they're dead.
That's actually kind of a good point.
In the
Like-
name of Winifred Arenda.
He'll see a
worst
couple of
case,
crossbow bolts scattered around, maybe.
a bucket, just a partially dissolved bucket. I mean, yeah, he if he doesn't see the rest of our remains, I'd assume he and also the fact that it reset itself, hopefully would let him know that. And you know, if worse comes to worse, and the idiots come a knocking, he can say, "Oh no, the slime ate them."
Yeah, I think that's the best choice.
Yeah, and then once we drain it, he can then definitely get the message of, oh, they did something. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think that's good. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to turn the other one to reverse the magic.
Okay. So you allow
Up
this
top.
door to
Oh,
completely shut.
carefully.
Mhm.
I'm going to have Rayron look at the circle on the inside and make sure that doesn't change at all when I turn this knob,
That's true. I'm interested to make sure that that doesn't change.
just in case.
I don't think it will because it's all set.
No, I don't think it will. But honestly, I don't trust Scott.
That little evil face.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Ooh,
you
what
do
the-
make sure that the door to the left is completely engaged, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So you go over to the one to the right and you start turning it. And immediately as you start turning it, you can hear like a gust start to happen. No, actually the opposite. Just like a blowing wind immediately takes place as you're opening this thing. It starts with the first little turn, and this wheel is actually a little difficult to turn because of how often it's been used. The gears are just a little worn down, so it's just a little bit difficult to turn. So it's like when you that first little turn, you actually hear it's that whistling, that as it's like trying to blow through like a tight little area. But as you open up more and more and more, it starts to really, when you get the thing fully opened, you can see just the incredible force of winds that's there. Now, who's the one actually turning this wheel?
I mean, if I can't turn it,
You can. Anybody can. But who's the one actually turning it?
then probably Valorant would have been the one to turn it.
Okay,
Honestly,
then-
they're delegating the wrong jobs to me.
Well, it's important because the person that's turning it can't see inside the door, right? Because they're turning the. So the other two, you're able to like stand in the opposite corner, like kind of in front of the wheel that you let shut, and you can make me a perception check as you look diagonally through.
Good, it's reversed.
The tactic works. Wait for the
Yep.
roll. See what happens.
So, you actually are looking into the room. What you notice is that it's only a tiny little alcove, but the alcove is like, whereas beforehand it was well carved stone, blah 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 blah. It is perfectly smooth inside there. We're talking like perfectly smooth inside the alcove for all the areas where it's carved. But it almost looks like so perfectly smooth for all the areas that are carved beyond what I'm about to describe, which it almost looks like the inside of a cornucopia or the inside of like a shell, because of like just maybe how it was that it had been carved that way, or maybe just naturally just because of the sheer force of the winds that's blowing throughout there. However, suspended in midair, seemingly not held by anything whatsoever, is a crystal about the size if you were to put your two fists together. There's a crystal that's hovering there, and you can see this crystal has a slight amount of like a bluish light, like blue with a slight white hints to it, light that's kind of like pulsing off of it as it's just billowing a ridiculous amount of air and incredible force. After the door comes to its full, after the wheel itself comes to its fully engaged, like
Rayron at that point, his head cogs are also turning, and he thinks this is the slime goes down and is blown out the other door. So he would shout that we need to open the other door now.
hold on. As the so he's like saying we should probably open the other door as you're saying that, but the thing like comes to a lock, and you can actually see Val that once the wheel comes to a full lock, the actual center of the wheel itself, the actual like I can imagine the center of a steering wheel where like a horn would be, but it's just like a small cylinder, pops out. Like it actually like engages, and you can see that when it engages, like the little cylinder pops out, and there's like two little like a post coming out either side of it, and you realize that that little area you can actually turn it to kind of make it so those two little posts can go into a different little area, different little slots that are designed for, and then push it back in. Now the thing's locked open, remember, so you don't have to hold it. It's locked open on its own.
Do I put this in? Click, click.
All of a sudden, the crystal inside there, the glowing stops for less than half a second, and then it changes to have almost like a slight green light to it, almost like an oceanic color, right? And then the wind stops once again for almost half a second, just shy of, and it goes the exact opposite direction. It's a huge sucking motion that takes place, and the actual what are they called? Runes inside the inner doorway, inside that little gap, the tunnel, for less than half a second, the magic on them fades, the light stops, and then kicks back in instead of being the glowing blue light that they've been, kicks in as being a red color. And then all of a sudden, you hear the sucking noise happening really, really, really loud. After like a minute or so, you can just hear the slurping. The sucking the air becomes the slurping, like somebody trying to work a smoothie, like a really thick frap or something like that through a straw. You can hear it like coming through the tunnel. And then out to the extent of where your eyes can see, you see just the ooze itself rushing towards you guys. And there's that moment where, like, you know the magic's there, you know it's good, but you do get nervous for just a second when all of a sudden it just like hits, and you can actually see like a vibration of the magical aura itself. It hits that magical barrier that would hold it perfectly still. And then even though that sucking is happening, you guys can also notice on the inner rung of the door that has the crystal inside of it also has similar runes that make it so that it can't pass into that chamber as well. And then the thing eventually, click, 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 you know, the wind starts to die down a bit, and the door comes to a lock. As soon as the door comes to a lock, that little thing that had been that you had like turned or whatever beforehand, you can see without ever popping out again, it kind of resets itself back to the initial position. You imagine the crystal switches back to the blowing formation that it was beforehand, and then probably the most frightening moment of them all is there's less than half of a second where the runes in front of you stop glowing, but then they glow as blue again, and you're fine.
Well, that was something
Impressive.
else. And terrifying. But
If
very
terrifying.
and loud.
It was quite loud.
Everything in here knows we're here now. That's a problem.
Well, if you think about it, that had already happened before. I mean, at least the blowing part. I suppose that's how it bubbled up, slowly.
Although that's how it exploded out very quickly, I think, actually.
Yes. Should we check the door?
Yes, I think so. Go back. Just do it. Did one do his thing on the door? To Rayron.
He did before, it just wasn't very effective.
I know, but like Varen doesn't know. She's just, did he do that?
I don't know what his thing looks like. Why are you asking me? Ask one. Did you do your thing on the door?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
No bloodthirsty monsters on the other side.
Didn't work as well as expected. I'm unsure.
Is there a keyhole on this door?
Nope, it's just a little latch.
Well,
But maybe we should just make sure there's no traps. We know what the mole are like. Probably we're past the trap stage, but just to be sure. Or like any magic that, say, incinerates anyone who decides to wear weapons in.
You've detected magic for an hour and a half down here. You know there's no magic on the door.
yeah, it's still one of those things where he would instinctively be like, oh, okay, why did I do that? I've already never mind. I think the door is safe as far as magic is concerned.
Also,
I don't
was
know
that a
about
successful god roll? 99. Whew.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on today?
And so you guys go over to the door. Don't seem to be any traps. Doesn't seem to be any magic on it. And so you lift the latch and you start to pull open the door. And then we're going to take a 5-minute break, or whatever it ends up being. We'll be back in just a moment to see what happens when they finally leave this damn room. So we'll see everybody just a few minutes. Be right back.